Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about shooting in new locations, scouting locations, and finding the best light in those locations. It's really early, it's really cold. I'm going to get some coffee. We're going to be heading down the road to Tishomingo State Park in Mississippi, northeast Mississippi. So we're going to have a good time today. Can't wait to see what we got there. I've looked up no pictures on what it's like or what it could be like. I don't know what to find. I've just heard that there may be some fall colors still down there, so gonna go check it out, see what we get. Hopefully it's not a total bust. It's like an hour and a half long drive, so hopefully it's not a total bust when we get there. Alright guys, so we're here. We made it to Tishomingo State Park in northeast Mississippi, and I gotta say, first impressions, not too impressed, not because of the park, but because of the conditions. You know, oftentimes when you try to plan around fall color, a lot of times you're disappointed just because fall color is so hard to plan for. It's so hard to kind of try to work around. So when you do that, a lot of times, you might have a big frost come in and hit, and you totally miss any fall color that's going to be going on. There's a few trees here and there that we see coming in that have some fall color left, but a lot of times that's what happens when you're trying to plan around specific events that are dependent on weather. So one of the rules that I like to keep when I'm going to check out a location or when I'm going to scout out is stay 100% flexible. 100%, you never really know what you're going to have in a location, especially if you're depending on weather. And that's a huge part of any photography planning that you're trying to make, any photography organizational plans that you're trying to make, going somewhere and shooting something. A lot of times, if you're depending on weather, you need to be able to adjust and adapt on the fly before you get to a place and you're totally disappointed in what you have going on, kind of like we are today. As we're walking through and kind of get a feel for how the day is going to go with what you're going to be able to shoot, just as you start walking through locations and scouting things out, it's important to remember and think about locations you're going to be coming back to. So, if we're just walking on a trail like we are right now, it's important to always be thinking about places you're going to be coming back to. How long does it take to get to those places? Always time out exactly how long you're going to need to get to locations, come back to them, because so many times, especially if you're coming out to a new location and trying to find somewhere for a second time, when the light gets good, if you don't time out exactly how long it takes to get to a place for a second time, a lot of times you miss the best light. You miss that sunset or sunrise color. So it's a really good idea to remember and prepare exactly for what time you're going to be coming back, how long it's going to take to get out there, even down to the very points of what kind of equipment you're going to need. Are you going to need a long lens, a wide angle? Are you going to need a macro? Like today, since we don't have a lot of fall color remaining after the storm came through, you're probably going to need a lot of macro shots to get the leaves that are still changing colors in the lower elevations. So a lot of times you need to be thinking about that. Have your camera ready. Go ahead and put that macro lens on your camera, your wide angle, your telephoto, whatever it's going to be, because if you get out there and you're really racing against time, you want to be sure and you have the access to get that shot. So you don't want to be rushing, like drop a lens or anything like that. You want to be 100% ready and prepared for whatever that shot is going to require. So always be thinking about, changes that you might need to adapt for, or different shooting situations based on what you've gone out and scouted and shot before. So you can still go through and shoot and even prepare for your compositions that you're going to be going out and shooting for, but always be the next step ahead, next step prepared, always wondering what is going to cut down on time here. How can I get the best shot possible when I'm going out into new locations, and use what I've scouted and use what I've researched to the best of my ability. Alright guys, here's seriously like the perfect example of what I'm talking about when knowing which lens you want to use, because like these right here, all of this area is a great spot for throwing on a macro lens and taking a photo with a macro lens. Being able to pick out those certain little details, fragments of these leaves, stack the leaves, create a nice bokeh effect. So keep these things in mind. It's also a cool shot for like a telephoto lens if you get the consistent light that you need. Coming in and shooting these with a telephoto lens like a 70 to 200 f4 would be really cool to be able to focus stack like bam, 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 all of these leaves going back to the trunk of the tree and getting that nice detail close-up shot of all of the detail that makes up this tree, because you still have some nice fall color here. You have greens and yellows and oranges, and then some pretty cool detail on the trunk of the tree as well. So this is a great example of why you need to scout out locations. And then these ferns here too are also a great example of breaking out a macro lens, being able to take these at different angles, kind of creating that bokeh effect on what the fern leaves might look like. Alright guys, another great tip we can use as we're scouting locations out in new places if we've never been there before, if we're just going out to see what there is for future visits, we can always think about the option of perspective as well. So behind me I have a really cool like big swinging bridge. It has a really cool archway here. What do I want to shoot? Do I want to shoot an HDR later when the lighting gets cool to get that cool light right under this archway behind me? Do I want to get a really cool sun star and get a low perspective with the sunlight beaming out from the bottom of the bridge and have like a really cool sun star effect or lens flare? What do I want from this image? So we really need to think about perspectives here. Do I need a high perspectives for that? Do I need a low perspective? How do I need to capture the sun? Where is the sun going to be setting? What's the light going to be looking like? Do I need to use bracketing here? We have all these questions that we need to go ahead and sort out before we get to a location and start taking a photograph, because a lot of times if you're deciding kind of on the fly about what you want to shoot or how you want to get it in the shot, you're going to miss the shot because the sunlight is constantly changing. You never know where it's going to be if you just show up and start shooting. So one of the things that you can start doing is planning out sun locations by using the app PhotoPills. Kind of looking at where the sun is going to be in the sky. There's a good augmented reality version of the app that you can use. You can go ahead and start planning out where the sun's going to be. And get your lens selection down again. That's so important for photography. We mentioned it before about lens selection and what kind of lens do you need. That's super important for nailing your shots, because if you want to get those shots, if you want to get those dream shots, you've got to know what lens you want, what you want within the shot. So we really need to start looking at that. What exactly do you need from every aspect of photography that you get out and start shooting these locations? Because like here? Do I want a high perspective of this? If so, I can easily just get a drone out and throw it up in the air and get a really cool, like, natural design look of how this bridge looks crossing the water and somebody crossing the bridge at the same time. It all depends on what you want this shot to look like and how you want to capture it and how you want to share this photo to match your photographic vision. Another good rule of thumb to follow is always take practice shots of the final shot that you want to get. Just because when you're out at a location, you're trying to find places to shoot, doesn't mean that when you come back, everything's going to be exactly the same. So it's always a good idea as you're going along, and even though conditions aren't great, you have that practice shot to go back and help you visualize what it should look like at a later date. Maybe that's during the day or at a later time when you come back. It's always easy to figure out if you have a shot to go back to and see exactly what your cropping was, exactly what your zoom was. Whatever you do or however you compose the shot, you always have a photograph to go back to when you're going through and completing your creative vision of a photograph when you go out and shoot a location. All right, y'all, just finished up the day of shooting, the day of scouting, going out and checking out Date Park in eastern Mississippi. You know, conditions today weren't great, but that's why you scout. That's why you go out and find new locations and go out and explore different areas. I think a lot of photographers, especially nowadays, when they think about going out and trying to find photo locations, it's like, if they get a great photograph, it's a success, and if they don't, it's a total failure. And I think that's due to a lot of the pressure that we have now from instant fame on Instagram or social media. But you know, as long as you go out and you find potential locations to go and shoot, that's a good thing. Like, that's a positive day. And even just going out and exploring, like, that's why you started photography in the first place. You liked doing things like this, and that's why you wanted to pursue it further. So finding locations and scouting locations is a really good way of finding that reason why you even started photography in the first place. It's a great way to go out and really explore and connect with that person who started photography again. So my last tip for scouting and finding good photo locations is use everything you have. Like today, I brought out 2 camera bodies, 2 tripods, wide angle lens, a mid-range lens, a 70-200 lens, my drone. I used all of it today and was able to get some good ideas of some potential shots that I could come back and have. So always use everything you have. I feel like a lot of photographers, when they're first starting out and when they're getting used to scouting good locations, is, you know, they'll really use one lens to kind of hone in on exactly what they want. Maybe like a wide angle, trying to get in foregrounds on every single shot. I think that's a big mistake when you're going out and scouting. I think you should scout like you're actually going to go out and shoot the photographs, the reality photographs that you want. Those picture perfect, like, end results that you're stoked about, that you go out and shoot, that you want to share on Instagram or you want to make a print of. You know, those are the shots that you need to be searching for, and those are the shots that you need to be trying to produce. So when you're going out and trying to find these locations, you should do so even if the lighting isn't great. You should go out and try to find these locations like the lighting is like perfect, and these are going to be the end results that you want. Just because when you go back and look at those photographs, you look at the scouting locations that you have,
you go back and you find exactly what you want in poor conditions with like the lens choices that you want, and then you come back out and use that exact same lens, use the exact same focal distance, the exact same aperture, and then you can really hone in and produce on exactly what you want to shoot and exactly what you want to produce.